वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। संस्कृतसमितेः आश्रये कुमारसम्भवविषये अस्माकं प्रवचनानि प्रचाल्यमानानि सन्ति। We were doing shloka 73, in which the brahmacharin advises Parvati straight away to refrain from the objective that she was pursuing. Nivartaya asmat asadipsitat manaha. Manaha nivartaya. Turn your mind back from this ipsita, means desire. Why should she turn her mind back from this desire? Because this ipsita is not a good one. It is asadipsita. It is a bad one. So this is an unworthy pursuit, and therefore turn your mind back from this unworthy goal. Where is a person of that sort? Kva tad vidhaha? He has already described the type or the vidha that Shiva is in all the previous verses, and therefore a person of that sort is tad vidhaha. So where is he, a person of that sort, and where are you? Kvacha tvam. Tvam is understood. Punya Lakshana, a person of auspicious features. According to the Samudrika Shastra, there are a number of features prescribed both for a man and a woman as to which ones are auspicious and which ones are inauspicious, and Parvati undoubtedly is one who is endowed with all the auspicious features of a noble woman, and therefore you are a person of auspicious features, and all these meritorious features would go in vivid contrast to the person that Shiva is, the kind of person that he is, tad vidaha. So where is he and where are you? The two kwas bring out great contrast. Dvau kvau mahadantaram gamayataha, says a maxim in Sanskrit, and therefore where is a person of that sort and where are yourself endowed with all the auspicious features? Apekshate sadhujanena vaidiki shmashana shulasya yupasatkriya. He gives a beautiful analogy here. Now in the performance of the yajna, there is a yupastambha that is built, and it is to that yupastambha that the animal that is to be made an offering is tied. And before this happens, there are acts of worship for the yupastambha itself, and therefore so they are called takshana, prokshana, and so on. So some carving is to be done, some prokshana with mantras is to be done, etc. So a number of procedures for the worship of that yupa, so or the sacrificial post. Satkriya is the act of worship. Now that is not done to the post in a cemetery. So shmashana shulasya, so the place, the gallows where a person is hanged or put to death. So there is also a shula, and the sacrificial post is also a shula. So the similarity of both being a post is the point of comparison and contrast here. So there is only a superficial comparison here, in that both are posts, but on the other hand there is a vivid contrast between the two. One is for the most sacred of acts, and the other is the most impure of things, and therefore the shmashana shula, the totally non-sacred burial ground or the crematorium, is not something that deserves the kind of honor and worship that is done to the yupa or the sacrificial post. So the word yupasatkriya is in Strilinga, comparable to Parvati, and Shiva is shmashana shula, comparable to shmashana shula, which is Pullinga, and therefore this does not deserve that. So Parvati does not deserve, or rather Shiva does not deserve Parvati. Shmashana shulasya na yupasatkriya, and therefore where is he, a person of that sort, So, of the most inferior and negative kind, the most inauspicious that I have already shown him to be. And where are yourself a person of exemplary nobility and all the auspicious features you are endowed with, and therefore the two provide a vivid contrast, and therefore surely he does not deserve you, and therefore you turn your mind back from this unworthy pursuit. So he advises Parvati, and with this verse, the advice given by the Brahmacharin concludes. So the person, the self same person who began with saying that he was prepared to offer half the fruit of his own tapas to her, is now ending up with the statement that she must just refrain from the kind of pursuit that she has been making. Now, what is the reaction of Parvati is given in the next verse, Shloka 74. Iti dvijatau pratikula vadini. When the Brahmacharin was thus speaking in a contrary manner, pratikula is contrary, contrary to her wish, her desires and her intentions, her very purpose. Pratikula vadini, he is arguing against that in a contrary manner. When that Brahmana, Dvijati is a Brahmana, when that Brahmana was speaking in a contrary manner, प्रवेपमानाधर लक्ष्य कोपया नुकुंचित भ्रूलत माहिते तया विलोचने तिर्यगुपांत लोहिते. Then she cast glances at him, angry glances at him. So vilochane ahite taya. So angry glances were cast by her upon him. And how the glances were is described to convey the anger. Pravepamanadhara lakshya kopaya. Her kopa or anger was made visible, lakshya, with the lower lip throbbing. Pravepamana adhara. So she was quivering, and naturally, because of the quivering lip, the Mira. ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ, ಅದೇನೋ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ರವೇಪಮಾನಾಧರ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಯ ಕೋಪಯ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ her lip quivering, her anger was now made very evident, and her eyebrows were knit. Nikunchita bhrulatam, her eyebrows resembled a creeper, and therefore the creeper-like eyebrows, bhrulatam, were nikunchita. So they were now knit. So with her knitting eyebrows, which were like creepers, ahite taya vilochane, the glances were cast by her, tiryak, in a cross manner, crosswise. So she cast cross glances towards that Brahmacharin. And however, her vilochane, they were further upanta lohite. Lohita means red. They were red towards the corner of the eye, and therefore the fringes of the eyes betrayed her anger, in that they had become very red now, red with anger. And therefore this shloka describes the condition of Parvati in her state of anger towards the Brahmacharin who was giving her contrary advices, having first promised, after all, that he would give the half of his own tapas which he had amassed in the Purvashrama, and he indeed looked like a person who had amassed a great deal of tapas because of his Brahma Tejas. The next shloka gives the reply of Parvati to Shiva. Now Lord Shiva, who was in the guise of a Brahmacharin, must surely have enjoyed the amount of anger that Parvati was now feeling, and therefore Parvati now replies, Uvacha chainam, and she now replied, Paramarthato haram navetsinonam yata eva mathamam alokasamanyam achintya hetukam dushanti mandascharitam mahatmanam. So in sum she says, you say you know Shiva, but you do not know Shiva in reality. Paramarthataha means in truth, in reality. Haram navetsi, you do not know Shiva. So you had begun saying Vidito Maheshwaraha, I know Shiva, but now the statements that you make show the contrary situation, that you do not know Shiva indeed, so you know him very superficially. On the other hand, you do not know Shiva in reality. Paramarthataha haram navedsi nunam. Certainly, I am very clear about it. Why? Why do you say so? Yataha evam athamam. For you have spoken to me thus. So the manner in which you spoke to me shows, so that betrays your utter ignorance of the true nature of Lord Shiva. And she makes a general statement in defense of her summary accusation of ignorance on his part, on the part of the brahmacharin regarding Shiva. She says, Aloka samanyam achintya hetukam dushanti mandascharitam mahatmanam. Idiots, mandaha, mahatmanam charitam dushanti. They can only hate dushanti mahatmanam charitam, the conduct of the noble, the conduct of the great, because there are two reasons. The conduct of the great is characterized by two expressions, aloka samanyam and achintya hetukam. So the conduct of the great is something that is not in common with the ways of the world. It is not loka samanya. Loka samanya means being common to. Loka means the ordinary people, the common folk. So it is something that is quite different from the way the commoners behave, and therefore otherwise the two would be just the same, and therefore it has to be distinct and different from the way the ordinary folk behave, and therefore Mahatmanam Charitam Aloka Samanyam. It is something which is distinctly different from the way the ordinary folk behave. And secondly, it is Achintya Hetukam. So when somebody behaves in a different manner, there naturally arises a question for the ordinary as to why he is behaving like this. So they would like to probe into the causes of his unusual behavior. But given the fact that they are idiots or people of a low caliber, so they cannot probe into the causes for the special behavior of the great. Achintya hetukam. Hetu means the cause, and chintya means conceivable. So achintya hetukam, what cannot be conceived at all. So their conduct is mysterious and inconceivable, and therefore as they cannot work out the real reason behind the unusual behavior of the extraordinary and the magnanimous, they can only come to hate the conduct of the noble. So the implication is, on the other hand, those who are knowledgeable indeed praise the behavior of the great, and the further implication is that this brahmacharin is by no means a jnanin. He may claim that he has performed a lot of tapas in his purvashrama, he may claim that he is knowledgeable about Shiva, but on the other hand he is only a manda, and therefore Shiva is a Mahatman and his conduct is something incomprehensible to this brahmacharin, and therefore no wonder that he is speaking of Shiva in this manner. So paramarthadharam navedsi, you have only a superficial understanding of Shiva. So all the references that are made that regarding Shiva were to the exterior of Shiva, the way he dresses, the way he moves about, and so on, and therefore there is nothing said by way of understanding the heart of Shiva, and therefore it is only the exterior and the outermost thing that is easily visible to the common man's eye that you are speaking of, and there is nothing that truly reflects the heart of Lord Shiva. Now there is a saying, when we get to know a person, so how do we judge him? So the first judgment that we make is through the dress of a person, vastrena, and secondly by the figure of the person, vapusha, and then vacha, by the way he speaks, and then with his knowledge, vidyaya, and finally with his humility, vinayenacha. So the more and the more we get to know a person, and the deeper and deeper we get to know a person, we would know him better and the better. And the way this brahmacharin has observed Shiva is only through the most exterior of things, and therefore he is only to be considered an ignoramus. so who is just hating the conduct of the noble, the magnanimous, because he cannot know what in truth Shiva is. There is a saying in Sanskrit. So, for a person who is a jnani, who is knowledgeable, so who has known the truth, the supreme truth, the behavior of the ordinary folk looks like those of jadas and unmattas and pishachas, and even such a person looks like a jada or unmatta or pishacha to the ordinary folk. Buddha tattvasya lokoyam jadonmatta pishachavat, Buddha tattvopi lokasya jadonmatta pishachavat. And therefore, this is only expectable that the ordinary folk cannot understand, and the brahmacharin, being very ordinary in his observation, by no means can he understand the conduct of Lord Shiva. There is a saying, Tehi loke mahajnanaha tacha loko nagahate. So, the world cannot comprehend people who are of extraordinary knowledge. Now, she begins to refute the accusations and allegations of Parvati, of Shiva, of this brahmacharin, point by point. She says, Vipat pratikara parena mangalam nishevyate bhuti samutsukena va jagacharanyasya nirashishas sataha kimabhirashopahatatma vrittibhihi. She says, when does a person need mangalachara? Because that was the accusation that the brahmacharin had made against Shiva, namely he is amangalabhyasarati, and therefore Parvati says, Mangalam nishevyate, auspicious things are resorted to, auspicious things and auspicious activities are resorted to, nishevyate, by two kinds of persons. Number one, by those who are bent upon parena, vipat pratikara, on in counteracting some calamity. So, vipat pratikara. So, it is only such persons who need to resort to auspicious practices. Or by number two, bhuti samutsukena, one who is eager to acquire riches and wealth. So, bhutir vibhuti maishwaryam, says Amarkosha, and therefore bhuti samutsuka is a person who is earnest after the riches of the world, and it is only these two types of persons who need to resort to auspicious practices. But on the other hand, in the case of Shiva, he is jagacharanyasya nirashishas sataha kimabhirashopahatatma vrittibhihi. Now, in neither way does Shiva qualify for the performance of the auspicious practices, mangalachara, because he is himself the resort of the world, jagacharanyasya, he is the refuge of the world. Sharanya is one who is kind and compassionate towards those who has come as a sharana or as a refugee, and therefore the Lord is the refuge of the world, jagacharanyasya, and nirashishas sataha, and he who remains free from all desires. So, ashis is desire, and therefore nirashishaha is one who is free from all desires. Kimabhihi ashopahatatma vrittibhihi. So, these practices, vritti is practice of those whose minds, atma, is ashopahata, is vitiated by their desires, so by their numerous desires. So, persons whose minds are contaminated by aspirations, so they have their own set of practices and they need to adhere to them and they need to stick to them and practice them and pursue them. And in the case of Shiva, he has no need of them whatsoever because he has transcended all desires, and therefore a person who has transcended all desires, his behavior and the behavior of the person who is trammeled by numerous kinds of fascinations and aspirations and worldly desires, the two cannot be compared at all, and therefore the need of the one and the need of the other are utterly different, and therefore Lord Shiva has nothing to aspire for through these auspicious practices, and therefore your accusation that he is amangalabhyasarati is annulled now. 77. Akinchana san prabhavassa sampadam trilokanathaha pitrisadma gocharaha sabhima rupaha shiva ityudidyate nasanti yatharthya vidaha pinakinaha. She says, well, you may characterize Shiva as utterly poor, as impecunious, akinchanaha son. So, being a penniless person, he is himself the very source of all the riches. So, sampadam prabhavaha saha. Prabhava means the origin or the source. So, he is the very source of riches. In fact, the very word Aishwarya is derived in Sanskrit as Ishwarasya bhavaha Aishwaryam, and therefore he is the very origin and source of all wealth and riches. Trilokanathaha Pitrasadma Gocharaha. He may be a person who makes himself visible in the cemetery. So, Pitrasadma is the bhumi of the Pitris. So, Pitrasadma is the burial ground or the cremation ground, and he makes his appearance there in the crematorium, but he actually Trilokanathaha, the Lord of the three worlds. Saha Bhimarupaha Shiva ityudiriyate. He is a person of fierce form, no doubt. So, you have made a reference to the hideous form of Shiva by way of his dress and his ornaments and so on. But then he is himself called Shiva, and the word Shiva means auspicious. So, this being the case, even though his form may be fierce, so he is himself the very embodiment of everything auspicious, and that is why his name itself is Shiva, means auspicious. Iti udiriyate, so is he referred to or characterized as, and therefore the sum and substance of all this is, because he is thus a combination of contradictions, there is nobody who can claim to have comprehended Lord Shiva in full. Nasanti yatharthya vidaha pinakinaha. So, pinakin means the wielder of the pinaka bow. So, yatharthya vid means one who knows the truth. So, earlier she had clearly told, so paramarthataha aram na vedsi, and here she says yatharthya vidaha nasanti, and therefore earlier she said you do not know, and now she says indeed nobody knows Lord Shiva in reality, in truth, and therefore nasanti yatharthya vidaha pinakinaham, and therefore your accusations that he is penniless and so on, that he appears in the burial ground, so and his form is fierce and so on. So, all these carry no weight whatsoever, certainly not for me. Vibhushanodbhasi pinadha bhogiva gajajinalam vidukula dhariva kapalivasya tathavendu shekaram na vishwamurte ravadharyate upuhu. And she continues to depict the various contradictions that appear in the person of Shiva. So, these are all contradictions that are visible in the case of persons of a very exalted behavior, and these appear contradictory only to ordinary minds. Even in the Ramayana, we see Rama being portrayed as Kalagni Sadrishaha Krodhe Kshamaya Prithivi Samaha. So, when it comes to Krodha, so he was like a veritable Kalagni, or the fire of conflagration that comes at the end of the times. And on the other hand, he was also comparable to the earth as regards his patience and compassion, etc. So, Kshamaya Prithivi Samaha. And similarly, here in the case of Lord Shiva, his form itself is something that is incomprehensible. So, Vibhushanodbhasi, it may sometimes be shining bright, Udbhasi, with Vibhushanas, with ornaments, or it might have just tied the serpents upon his person. Pinadha bhogi va. Bhogi is the serpent, and Pinadha means tied. So, he might have tied the serpents upon his person. Pinadha bhogi va. So, serpents wound round his person. Or again, Gajajinalam bidukula dhariva. He may be wearing the hide of the elephant. Gaja ajina. Ajina is the skin. So, the skin of the elephant he may be alambi, he may be wearing. Dukula dhariva. So, or he may wear a silken garment. We do not know any specific occasion where Shiva wore a silken garment, but that was the point that the Brahmacharya had raised, that Parvati would be on the occasion of the marriage wearing a silken garment, whereas Shiva would be wearing a gajajina with dripping blood, and therefore she says, whether he wears this or that. Kapalivasya dathavendu shekaram. He may have upon his crest, Shekhara, the Indu, the moon, so which makes him look very charming. Or he may be wearing skulls, so Kapali, which makes him look ghastly. And he may look either this way or that way. Na Vishwamurter avadharyate upuhu. It is by no means possible to ascertain. Avadharyate means clearly ascertained or clearly comprehend. The Vapuhu, the form of Vishwamurti, the Lord is Vishwamurti, means the whole world is his body. So the whole Vishwa is his Murti. So Murti is body, and therefore the entire world, the entire universe constitutes his body. And this being the case, in the Ramayana we get a similar statement. So Brahma and others in the Yuddha Kanda, they say, Jagat Sarvam Shariram Te. The entire universe constitutes your frame, your body, and therefore na Vishwamurter avadharyate upuhu. The body of the person for whom the entire universe is his body, so that cannot be ascertained at all. So one cannot comprehend a person whose form is the very universe, and he has a variety of choices and a multiplicity of choices as regards adorning his body. 79. Tadanga samsargam avapya kalpate dhruvam chita bhasmarajo vishuddhaye tathahi nrittabhinaya kriyachyutam vilipyate maulibhir ambaraukasam. Now the brahmacharan had made fun of the chita bhasma rajaha. So, and it is that which Parvati is now trying to answer that objection. The brahmacharan had said, what could be more incongruous than this? Ayukta rupam kimatah param vada trinetra vakshas sulabham tavapiyati. Even though the bosom of Lord Shiva may be easy of access to you upon marriage, stanadvayesmin harichandanaspade padam chitabhasmarajah karishiti. So at a place where the sandal paste would be the right application, there would be nothing but a deposit of the dust of ashes, so from the funeral pyres. And Parvati refers to that charge of the brahmachari and answers that very successfully here, and she says, now chitabhasma rajaha, the dust of the rajaha is the dust of the chitabhasma, the ashes of the funeral pyre. Indeed, dhruvam vishuddhaye kalpate, that is capable of purification. So it's not merely that becomes pure, it even is that it indeed imparts purity. So it imparts sanctity. Vishuddhaye kalpate. Kalpate means becomes capable of. So it becomes capable of vishuddhi or purifying things once it comes into contact with his body. Tadanga samsargam avapya. Avapya, attaining samsarga or contact with tadanga, with his limbs. So it becomes capable of not only does it become pure itself, on the other hand it is also capable of purifying other things. Tathahi, so indeed it is. So the expression tathahi is generally introduced to give justification to some statement that is made, so which is not easily believable. So it is now justified by an illustration, by an actual event. So nrittabhinaya kriyachyutam vilipyate maulibhir ambaraukasam. So when the Lord Shiva dances, the particles of ashes fall from his body, and the divinities assembled there eagerly rush to smear that ash upon their head. So nritta is dance, so nrittabhinaya, so the performance of the dance, kriya, that act, chitam, so fallen. So on account of the Tandava dance that Lord Shiva does, so Tandava consists of very vigorous movement of the body, and there, in contrast with Lasya, which is the feminine dance, and therefore because of the vigorous dance that Tandava is, the ashes smeared upon the body of the person of Shiva will sometimes fall down, and therefore nritta abhinaya kriya chitam, tat chitabhasmarajaha Ambaraukasam Maulibhihi Vilipyate. Ambaraukas is the gods and the divinities, and they smear their head. Mauli is head. Maulibhihi Vilipyate. So it is smeared upon their head by the divinities themselves. Now, the gods are themselves considered very sacred, and if the gods themselves consider themselves purified by the application of these particles of the ashes that are fallen from the body of Shiva, so if they consider themselves as purified by that, how much more sacred that ash must be. So originally the ash belongs to the funeral pyre, Chita, and yet it has now become so sacred once it comes into contact with this person that the gods themselves consider this as so sacred that they would wear it upon their head. So it's not merely that they take it in their hands and show their high regard for the same, but on the other hand, they put it upon their heads, they apply upon their crest, and therefore this shows that the highest regard that the gods themselves attach to the ashes that come upon his person, and therefore if that is the kind of attitude that the divinities themselves have, so you ridicule that the ash comes and sets foot upon my bosom, and therefore it's something horrendous, in fact has no basis whatsoever. Asampadastasya vrishena gachyatah prabhinna digvarana vahano yuva karoti pada upagamya maulina vinidra mandara rachorunanguli. And the brahmacharin had also made fun of the way that Parvati would be going upon sitting upon the back of the old bull of Lord Shiva. So iyanchatenya purato vidambana yadudhaya varana rajaharyaya vilokya vruddhoksham adhishtitam toya mahajana smera mukho bhavishyati, he had charged. So the brahmacharin had stated that people at large would be laughing at them, laughing particularly at Parvati when she sits upon this old bull of Lord Shiva, whereas she was herself fit to be carried on the back of an elephant, Varana Rajaharyaya, a princess that she was. And now she refutes that by saying that even as Lord Shiva moves about sitting upon that very bull, Vrishena Gachyataha, so Vrisha is the Vahana, and the word showing the Vahana is always put in Tritiya Vibhakti, and therefore Vrishena Gachyataha, while he goes on the back of the old bull that the brahmacharin had referred to. So, and she invokes the other adjective that he has used, namely that Digambarattvena Nivejitam Vasu, that the brahmacharin was, that the Lord Shiva was indeed penniless, because the way he dresses, being a Digambara, itself shows that he was utterly penniless and a pauper, and therefore Asampadaha Tasya, this pauper of a person who goes on the back of a bull, Vrishena Gachyataha, what happens is, when he is going, sometimes Indra comes in the opposite direction, and Indra is seated on the Airavata elephant, and he climbs down, and descending from the back of the elephant, he comes and shows his respect to Lord Shiva. Prabhinna digvarana vahano vrisha. Vrisha refers to Indra. So Vasavo Vritraha Vrisha. So Vrisha is Indra, whose vehicle, Vahana, is the Digvarana. Varana means an elephant, and therefore Digvarana means a Diggaja, and Prabhinna means an elephant in rut, and therefore this elephant in rut, so this haughty elephant upon which Lord Indra is seated, what does he do? Karoti pada upagamya. Upagamya, so karoti. So he approaches Shiva. He descends from his mountain like Airavata, and he approaches Lord Shiva. Padau maulina vinidra mandara rajorunanguli karoti. So he makes the pada of Shiva having this effect, namely the anguli, the toes of Lord Shiva's feet get reddened, aruna, on account of the pollen, rajaha, of the mandara flowers, which is available only in the Swarga. So, and the Mandara flowers being in full bloom, Vinidra. So obviously men also can wear flowers. So as we see from the example of Indra himself, and therefore Indra is wearing upon his head these flowers. So there are 5 divine trees, Panchaite Devataravaha, and the first rank is given to Mandara there. Mandara of Parijatakaha, Santanah Kalpavrikshascha Pumsiva Harichandanam. So these are the 5 Devavrikshas, and therefore the best among them undoubtedly is the Mandara, which yields beautiful flowers. And the Mandara flowers which are in full bloom, Mandara, Vinidra Mandara, Rajo Arunanguli. Rajaha is the pollen from those flowers. So in this verse, Parvati says that Indra bows down, so with his head, and when the head touches the feet of Lord Shiva, the Mandara flowers that Indra wears upon his head touch the feet of the Lord, and therefore the toes on the feet of Lord Shiva get reddened on account of the pollen from the Mandara flowers that are the decoration for the head of Indra. So Indra's crest touches the feet of Lord Shiva, and therefore if Indra, who is going on the best of elephants, namely the Airavata, so the Digvarna, the prime Diggaja, if he should climb down from the back of the lordly elephant and bow down with his head to the feet of Lord Shiva, you can imagine who is there more powerful and who is richer. So the kind of vehicle that a person owns does not itself describe in full the greatness of a person, and therefore here it's very obvious that even Indra, who is most famous for his riches and his opulence and his lordliness, and as possessing the best of elephants, so himself bows down to Lord Shiva, and therefore the greatness of Shiva is very clearly spelt out by that. Vivakshata doshamapichyutatmana tvayaikamisham prati sadhu bhashitam yamamanantyatma bhuvopi karanam katham salakshya prabhavo bhavishyati. And she says it is impossible to understand the origin of Lord Shiva. So she says, you went on listing the negatives of Lord Shiva, and by mistake you have said something right also. Vivakshata doshamapi. You are a person who constantly keeps on speaking about the negatives of a person. Dosha is the fault lines. So Vivakshata, desirous of speaking about. Desirous of speaking, though you are about the drawbacks of a person, dosham api vivakshata, and that only shows the kind of mind that you have. You are a chitatman, a person of a fallen mind. Chita is fallen, atman is mind. So a debased mind that you are only censorious, always looking for defects of others. Yet still something strange has happened, which yields a very opposite effect. Tvaya ekam isham prati sadhu bhashitam. One thing he has spoken aright regarding Lord Shiva, namely yamamananti atma bhuvopi karanam katham salakshya prabhavo bhavishyati. So he had spoken of alaksha janmata, that is, nobody knows about the details of the birth of Lord Shiva, and she says, how can his birth be got to be known at all? Katham salakshya prabhavo bhavishyati. Why? What is the reason? Why is it that people cannot get to know about the birth of Lord Shiva? Because he is known as Atma Bhuvaha api Karanam. So he is the cause of even Atma Bhuhu. Atma Bhuhu refers to Brahma, and Brahma is said to be the creator of the world, and therefore Shiva happens to be the creator of the world, and it is only the creator of the world who can remember what was created when. But if he is himself created, how can he remember how was he created? So when was he created? And therefore Brahma himself does not know when and how he was created by Lord Shiva, and therefore Shiva is referred to Yam Amananti. He is spoken of, that is to say, there is no disagreement regarding that, and therefore when Lord Shiva is spoken of as the very cause of the very creator, how can his heredity be traced? So it is impossible to getting to know the true origin of Lord Shiva. And as she has answered almost all the objections raised by the Brahmacharin, she says, okay, there is no point in arguing, so let us stop discussing about this. Alam vivadena, enough of arguments, so no more shall we quarrel. Yatha shrutastvaya tatha vidhastavad asheshamastu saha. So let Shiva be in exactly the same manner as you have been claiming it to be, as you have heard of him. Yatha shrutaha tvaya, as heard by you. So tatha vidhaha tavat ashesham astu saha. So let him be fully in exactly the same way as you have heard of him. So that is to say, I concede all of your characterizations of Shiva. But as for me, mamatra bhavaika rasam manaha sthiram. My mind is sthiram, steadfast, with the single feeling of love. Bhava eka rasam. So mama manaha atra sthitam. So mind is established, sthiram or sthitam. So na kama vrittir vachaniyam ikshate. And she says, the course of love is such that it is blind to the defects of the person whom we love. So vachaniyam ikshate. Vachaniya is fault, and ikshate means observes. But the kama vritti is the course of love. The very nature of love is that it comes to ignore the defects of the person who is loved, and therefore na kama vrittihi vachaniyam ikshate. The sentence is also interpreted in a slightly different manner, namely kama vrittihi can be taken as a bahuvrihi when it refers to the person who is behaving in a wanton manner, and therefore a libertine. Kama vrittihi vachaniyam means censure, na ikshate, doesn't care for. So there is a saying in Sanskrit, kamaturanam nabhayam nalajja. So a person who is carried away by love, so he doesn't care for any person, so he neither has fear nor a sense of shame, and therefore you may rather take me to be a person who is a libertine, and therefore a person who does not care for what others speak of, and therefore vachaniyam na ikshate, and I do not care for what ill you may speak of, either regarding me or regarding Shiva. I am deeply in love with him. So with this ends the Parvati's speech to Lord Shiva, but she continues to speak, but now addressing her friend. She says, Nivaryatamali kimapyayam vatuh punarvivakshu spuritottaraadharaha na kevalam yo mahatopabhashate shrunoti tasmadapi yassa papabhak. She says, O friend, stop this brahmacharin. Ayam vatuhu nivaryatam. Ali, O friend, because kimapi ayam punaha vivakshuhu. This fellow seems to be keen upon saying something else again. How do you know? How do you know that he wants to speak again? Spuritottaraadharaha. Now his upper lip is throbbing. So that is to say, he is bound to continue his speech. So there are indications that he wants to speak further, and perhaps he is going to malign Shiva the more. And no more am I prepared to listen to his calumniation of the Lord. And therefore, na kevalam yo mahatopabhashate shrunoti tasmadapi yassa papabhag. It is not merely the person who speaks ill of the great, but even the one who lends ears to those words of calumniation that becomes a partaker of sin. Papabhag means one who partakes of the sin, and therefore the person who speaks ill of the great becomes a person who acquires demerit. So he commits an act of sin by speaking ill of the great. Mahataha yaha apabhashate. So saha papabhak bhavati. But on the other hand, it is not merely he, even the person who listens to that, tasmat yaha shrunoti, saha api, even he becomes a papabhak, becomes a partaker of sin. So just as we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, we also have, see, this Apabhashana also, where also, so Kirtana and Shravana so involve the consequences upon the speaker and the listener. And therefore, I am no more prepared to listen to this person who is speaking ill of the person whom I love and admire, because in the case of the great, so the person who speaks ill of them is going to become acquire demerit, and even the person who lends ears to the same also acquires demerit, and therefore there is no point in speaking anything more to this person, and therefore I have given all the refutations for his charges and challenges regarding Lord Shiva, and therefore there is nothing more for me to speak to him, and he seems to be keen on continuing his speech, which I am not keen on, because it is only a waste of time for me. So there is a saying in Sanskrit, Guror yatra parivado nindavapi pravartate karnau tatra pidhatavyau gantavyam va tato nitaha. When a great person is being maligned, Guroho yatra parivadaha nindavapi pravartate. So when there is speaking ill of a great person, then one should close one's ears, karnau tatra pidhatavyau gantavyam va tato nitaha, or should just get away from that person. So that is in the case of the noble, so who would not like to offend the person, so with a physical assault or counter calumniation of the person who is speaking ill of them, and so on. So in this case, Parvati has very clearly defended her position, and instead of making charges and counter charges and challenges regarding the Brahmacharan himself, she says, well, let us stop. So let's cease from this argument. And so saying, she thinks, well, anyhow this Brahmacharani is a guest, so what is the point in turning a guest away from my residence, and therefore I would rather myself go away from this place. Ito gamishyam yathava. So I will move away from this spot. Itaha, from this spot, gamishyam, I would rather move away. Athava, or rather. Iti vadini. So upon second thought, she gets a better thought, rather than arguing with this Brahmacharan anymore. Let me myself move away. Iti vadini. So saying, Chachala Bala, the young girl, she moved away from the place. So on account of the sudden stir, stana bhinna valkala, the upper garment that she wore, so it came away, it slipped from her breasts, stana bhinna valkala. But then, right at that very moment, Lord Shiva himself made his appearance, Swarupam Asthaya, assuming his true form as Shiva. So he was no more the Brahmacharin who was vitiating Lord Shiva, but the Lord Shiva himself, so who had assumed his true form, Swarupam Asthaya cha, Tam Kritasmitaha, with a gentle smile on his face, Samalalambe Vrisharaja Ketanaha, the Lord held her by the hand. Vrisharaja Ketanaha refers to Lord Shiva, because on the banner of Shiva is the mark of Vrisharaja, or the Vrishabha, or Nandin, and therefore that Lord Shiva appeared in his true form. So he no more was the Brahmacharin, so he showed himself, the Brahmacharin has now turned into Lord Shiva himself. And what was the reaction now of Parvati at that moment of supreme anger when she was going away? Has Lord Shiva appeared in his true form? Tam vikshya vepathumati sarasanga yashtir nikshepanaya padamudhrita mudvahanti margachala vyatikara kuliteva sindhu shailadhirajatanaya nayayau natasthau. Very beautiful verse. In fact, one can draw a picture of the condition of Parvati. And even the most difficult situation to describe in words, Kalidas is able to describe even with an upamana. So looking at him, tam vikshya vepathumati. So Parvati was so full of anger and now so full of shyness. So he is now quivering, he is now trembling. Vepathumati. Sarasanga yashtihi. Her slender frame, angayashti, is full of perspiration. She is sweating. Sarasanga yashtihi. And angrily she had begun to move away from that place. So nikshepanaya padam udhritam. She had lifted her foot, padam udhritam, to take the next step and move away. So, but now she was holding it just in that position, udvahanti, the lifted foot. She could not take it back, she could not place it forward, and therefore she was standing still like a statue, So with her one foot lifted, padamudhritamudvahanti, Margachalavyatikara kuliteva sindhu Shailadhirajatanaya Nayayo Natasthav. So Shailadhirajatanaya is the daughter of the mountain Himavan, that is Parvati. She neither moved, Nayayo, nor did she stand still, Natasthav. Neither could she stand nor could she move. And this is compared to the situation of a river, Sindhu, which is suddenly confronted with a mountain on its path, Marga on its path, Achala Vyatikara, the sudden situation, Vyatikara, of a mountain. So, and Achala is a mountain, and the river is now in a confused state. Akulita is confused and it is roving and it doesn't know whether it should go forward or go backward. So, it can neither go forward nor go backward. So, it was in that peculiar situation that Parvati was. The last verse of the canto. Adya prabhrityavanataangi tavasmidasah kritastapobhiritivaadini chandramaulau anhayasa niyamajam klamamutsusarja klesha phalenahi punarnavatam vidhatte. And Shiva now speaks and says, Adya prabhriti, today onwards, this moment onwards. So, avanatangi, O lady with stooping limbs, tavasmidasaha, I am your slave. And those days there was the possibility of selling and buying slaves, and I am a dasa who has been purchased, kritaha, purchased. And what is the price that one has to pay to purchase Lord Shiva? Tapobhihi, with tapas as the price. So you have paid that price of tapas and therefore you have purchased me. So that way Shiva is showing and indicating that he is available for all. So whoever performs tapas, so he is accessible and available to him, and therefore kritastapobhihi. So these are the words of Lord Shiva. Adya prabhrityavanataangi tavasmidasah kritastapobhihi. These are the words of Shiva. And when he was saying so, itivadini chandramaulau, when Shiva was saying so, anhaya, at once there was a change in her. Niyamajam klamamutsasarja, namely all the exhaustion on account of all the austerities that she had undergone all along for months on end. So all that vanished. Klamam is the fatigue and the exhaustion. So utsasarja means it was all gone. So she abandoned. So she is relieved of all the klama or the exhaustion born out of her niyama or tapas. So the amount of niyamas or tapas that she was performing, so that had naturally strained her person and she was exhausted, and all that vanished in a moment. And Kalidasa says, he makes a general statement here, kleshaha phalenahi punarnamatam vidhatte. So toil, kleshaha, when crowned with success, phalena, so with the acquisition of the fruit, punarnamatam vidhatte, it imparts a certain new freshness. So that is to say, a person becomes utterly afresh, so utterly fresh on account of the acquisition of the fruit, and therefore the accomplishment of an action makes one so happy as to forget all the efforts and the exhaustion that the very act involved, and therefore Parvati now became as fresh as ever, as fresh as she was before commencing her tapas. And therefore Parvati, who was just a moment ago was in an utterly confused state because of the confluence of emotions, namely supreme anger and irritation, and also supreme joy and confusion, and many other things, shyness and many other things, on account of this sudden perception of Lord Shiva right in front of her and right at the peak of his condemnation of Lord Shiva. So Parvati was now in a very perplexing situation, yet all the same, all her exhaustion on account of tapas was now gone and she was as fresh as ever. So with this concludes the canto 5, so called Parvati Tapaphalodaya, and therefore the Tapaphala of Parvati has been seen here. So, we shall stop here for today, and for the present we will take a break for about a month or so. Maybe roughly by the time of Sankranti or so, we will resume our this one our lectures, and my idea is to finish Kumar Sambhavam in another 2 or 3 lectures. So, the 6th canto is also a very beautiful canto. So, the remaining cantos describe the love sports of Shiva and Parvati, and we do not need to go through that in detail, and therefore we will be completing this series of lectures maybe in another 2 or 3 lectures. So, thanks all of you for your patience in listening to the lectures. Namaste.